Okay, I'll get started by welcoming you. Welcome to Wat Tung You. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. What I do is I start with meditation, but then afterwards I do a talk from this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. Today we're in chapter 23, which is titled it's titled Symbolism of the Teachings, Reminders Through Imagery. This is where you learn about the artwork, the architecture, and the symbolism of the teachings of the Buddha. Because when you visit temples, it's kind of nice to visit the temple, but if you understand the symbolism, like this thing behind me, then it'll be more meaningful for you to be able to visit temples. So I'll share that with you after the meditation. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start is with some chanting to be able to ease the mind into meditation. It helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation if you decide to chant. The chants are over there on a laminated sheet on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to the laminated sheets if you like, because I'll be chanting and you can chant along if you like. It's important to keep in mind that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you see those kinds of things associated with his teachings, those aren't his actual teachings. He never taught rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. So I'm going to start with some chanting. Then I'm going to come in with some guidance to be able to guide you during the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating together, everyone here at the temple and everyone online. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class. So feel free to take whatever position is comfortable for you, and you're welcome to join in to the meditation if you like. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Putang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sankho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakwa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammono Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusranang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธเอมาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตเอมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมดามังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนเอมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสเอมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามนุสนังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. So let me ask you guys a question. So just the three of you guys. And I noticed that there's not really anybody online right now either. Normally there's a bunch of people online. So normally I just start teaching and helping students to understand the teachings of the Buddha. But since it's just the three of you guys, I would like to just ask you, did you guys just come for meditation and you'd like to be done? Or would you actually like to learn some of the things that the Buddha actually taught? Because the topic that I have to talk with you guys tonight about, if you like, is about the symbolism that the Buddha used during his lifetime in order to be able to help people to understand his teachings. If this is something you guys are interested in learning, I'll be pleased to teach it to you. But if you're not interested and you just were interested in meditation, that's fine too. And we can kind of finish up and just leave. But I thought I would check in with you guys rather than just kind of assume that you guys are here to learn. Would you guys like to learn this topic, or would you like to just kind of finish here with meditation and be done for today? Let me see. Raise your hand if you would like to learn this topic. Okay, you guys would all like to learn. Okay, all right, so I'll teach you guys this then. So the individual who we refer to as the Buddha, he was born in 563 BCE in a place that we call Nepal. During that time frame, that wasn't referred to as Nepal. It was just a bunch of different kingdoms. The line between Nepal and India didn't exist yet. But he was born in 563 BCE and he died in 483. And during his lifetime, he spoke a language that didn't have a script. There was no way to write it down. That the technology to write things down didn't exist during that time frame. So he used symbols like the one behind me here to be able to remind students of his teachings. So if you learn from him, he would teach you orally. And then if you say saw this symbol on the side of a barn, then it would remind you of his teachings if you understood what this symbol meant. So what I have here is a series of symbols that are going to help you to understand what's used in artwork, architecture, and symbolism of temple construction. So now when you go visit temples or you look at Buddhist artwork, you'll actually understand what you're looking at. Where normally before you learn this kind of stuff, you go visit temples and you see artwork and it's just like, oh, that's pretty, and you take a picture, but you don't really understand the meaning behind it. So I'm going to explain to you guys the meaning behind this. And if you guys have questions, you're more than welcome to ask questions. There's actually some people online here. So I just looked, there's some folks online. If you use the microphones here, it'll actually make it easy for them to be able to hear you. Whereas if you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you. So this first image to talk about is actually an image that represents enlightenment. Some people call this the Na or the unalome. There's different ways to refer to it. What it does is it actually symbolizes your journey to enlightenment. Because when you first start out in life, you're in this continuous cycle of rebirth over and over and over and over and over again. And then as you get on this path to enlightenment, you see it's very dark and it's very broad because an individual doesn't really understand the teachings very much when they first start on the path. But then as you progress forward up this path, notice how it gets more and more narrow because you're narrowing in on the wisdom that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. And then as you're making forward progress, there's like some steps backwards. You're going to make some missteps. You're not going to be perfect when you're practicing on the path to enlightenment. Then you learn from that situation. You learn from those missteps, and now you continue your forward progress. But then you have some more back steps, and then you learn from that, and then you continue forward. Notice how it's getting more and more narrow as you're going up this line, and that's because you're narrowing in on the wisdom that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. And now you get to enlightenment. So this symbol is actually used to symbolize enlightenment. You'll oftentimes see this on statues of the Buddha in the third eye. They'll put it right in the middle of the eyebrows, or even like different bags or artwork or different things like this. You'll see this particular symbol. And then you'll see variations of this, because here, this is actually things that I got off the internet where I just kind of like got things that are similar. You can see that the artist is doing something very similar, because here your life is kind of a little bit messy. When you're in the unenlightened state, you experience a certain amount of frustration, agitation, and annoyance. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. So in the unenlightened state, life can seem a little bit miserable. It can be a bit messy in the unenlightened state. And that's what the artist is depicting here. Kind of like the starting out of your life is being pretty messy. But then when you get on the path to enlightenment, you can see that you're narrowing in on what it takes to be able to get to enlightenment with both of these. So any questions on this? Anything you guys would like to ask? No questions? Okay, so here's the next one. This is referred to as the Dhamma wheel. This symbolizes a central teaching of the Buddha. This circle symbolizes the cycle of rebirth and how an individual is continuously being reborn over and over and over again. These 8 individual spokes, this is representing the core central teaching of the Buddha. It's called the Eightfold Path. This is what helps you to train your mind to be able to escape out of the cycle of rebirth and get to the point where the mind's enlightened, where the mind's completely peaceful and joyful. This is a core central teaching of the Buddha, and this is used commonly in a lot of Buddhist artwork. Here you can see at this temple, I'm talking to this student, it's behind the head of this statue. You'll see it here at this temple too. If you go into the main temple building, the main statue, they have it on the wall behind the head of the Buddha. And the reason why is because when a Buddha gets to enlightenment, this is the very best time to live in humanity, because a Buddha is going to have deep, profound wisdom of what it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. And this Dhamma wheel is said to be on the head of a Buddha, and he will reach up with his right hand and he will turn this wheel counterclockwise. It's not actually on his head. It's kind of figuratively there, because a Buddha existing in the world is like humanity stepping forward, entering into a new era where the wisdom of what it takes to get to enlightenment exists in the world, and it's going to be really shining for other people to be able to see it. So a Buddha, when they get to enlightenment, will reach up and they will turn that Dhamma wheel counterclockwise, and that signifies humanity entering into a new era where now the wisdom that it takes to be able to get to enlightenment is available for countless people. So you'll see this kind of behind the head of a statue oftentimes. So this is called the Dhamma wheel, or teachings wheel. The word Dhamma means teaching. So it's teachings wheel is what this means. So any questions on this one here? No? Okay. So this is a lotus flower. You'll oftentimes see lotus flower used in Buddhist culture and Buddhist artwork because it actually symbolizes your journey to enlightenment. That a lotus flower has roots that are deep down into the core of the earth, holding on to the earth really tight. And then it needs to grow a strong stalk, and it grows this strong stalk through the murky water of the pond. And then it rises above the murky water and it blooms into a lotus flower. And it's the same thing that's true for a human being, is that you're holding on to the world really tightly. You're holding on to your relationships, holding on to your money, holding on to your material objects and your possessions. You're holding on to these things very tightly, but you're going to need to grow this strong stalk, this strong practice of wisdom to rise through the murky world. The world is very murky. There's people in the world that are killing and stealing and having sexual misconduct. They're lying and taking substances that cause heedlessness. You're going to need to have wisdom to be able to rise above that. And then as you do, you bloom into a lotus flower. But not every lotus flower blooms. Some of them actually stay like this. You can see some of them bloom. When you have a bloom lotus flower, this is symbolizing enlightenment, but you can see this one hasn't even broken through the water all the way yet, right? So when you see a closed lotus flower, this is symbolizing your potential to get to enlightenment, that you haven't got to enlightenment yet, but you have the potential to be able to do that. So any questions on the lotus flower here? No questions? Okay, so this one is actually something that I just got off the internet because it was something that's similar to some of the things I've already taught you. Because one of the things that's really nice about artwork is that you can kind of like go to a place where there's artwork and you can just step back and you can look at the artwork and try to understand what was the artist trying to communicate, because artists communicate through their artwork, right? So now that you guys have learned the things that I shared with you, you could probably look at this and you could tell, what does this mean, right? This is the signifying enlightenment, right? You guys know that now. And then the lotus flower also signifies enlightenment. So even though I didn't teach you this, you could see this on an artwork and be like, yeah, I think I know what that means because I can see some things that I understand here. So artists usually will do that, is they will kind of combine images to be able to communicate. So this is something that you can kind of figure out on your own. This is something that you will see at a lot of temples. If you guys have been visiting temples, I'll teach you guys what this is and why this is here. But just understand the story that I'm going to tell you. It may or may not be true. The story that I will share with you sounds pretty far-fetched to me, but I wasn't there at the time. You know, whether this story is actually true or false, I don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the story, and then I'm going to explain to you how to get benefit from the story, kind of extrapolate the lessons. So this snake is usually at the base of the stairs before you go into any temple. The temple here is like up here on the mountain, and we're all walking up this stairs in order to be able to get to the top where the temple is. So this snake is usually at the base of the stairs. So here's the story of why you'll see this here. So it's said that during the lifetime of the Buddha, that there was a snake that was very close to being reborn into the human world, that it could transition itself to look like a human. And it would transition itself to look like a monk with a robe and shaved hair, and it would go into the places where the Buddha was teaching. And as the Buddha was teaching, there would be countless people learning from him, hundreds and hundreds of people. And the Buddha would teach for very long periods of time. And your mind is working really hard when you're learning the teachings of the Buddha. There's a certain amount of effort that needs to go into you learning. And people would oftentimes fall asleep. And as people would fall asleep, the Buddha would just patiently wait for them to wake back up, and then he would just start teaching again. Well, as everybody was falling asleep, this snake that was looking like a human being fell asleep, and it lost its consciousness, and then it transitioned back to looking like a snake. And now when the humans were waking up, when the ordained practitioners, the monks were waking up, they saw this big snake amongst them, and they got very scared and very fearful, and they went and got the Buddha, because the Buddha wouldn't have been fearful. by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have any fear in your mind. There's no fear, not even the fear of death. So the Buddha came over and saw the snake, and the snake was just starting to wake up. And the Buddha says, why are you here? What are you doing? And the snake is like, oh, I want to learn your teachings. I want to get to enlightenment. And the Buddha's like, oh, you're in the animal world. You can't get to enlightenment from the animal world. It's only the human world that you can actually get to enlightenment. And the snake's like, oh, but I want to learn your teachings. I want to get to enlightenment. And the Buddha's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, you're not able to get to enlightenment. But from what I hear, you're very close to being reborn into the human world. So maybe on your next life, that's when you'll be able to learn my teachings and be able to get to enlightenment. And the snake is like, okay. And then the Buddha says, if you could please leave, that would be best, because these other individuals are learning. They're not yet enlightened and they're fearful. And if you could leave, it would be better for them to be able to learn how to get to enlightenment. And the snake's like, okay, well, if you're not going to let me learn, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to stand guard. And if there's anybody who comes into the temple and has ill will towards your teachings, I'm not going to let them to pass by. So this is the story. Sounds pretty far-fetched to me, right? Like I've never seen a snake that can transition itself to look like a human being. But scientists tell us that 99% of all the animals that once existed no longer exist. That what we see as animals is only 1% of the animals that once existed. So I don't know. I can't tell you that it was true. I can't tell you that it was false. I don't have the evidence to be able to tell you. But I can help you to see the lessons to learn here. The first lesson to learn, whenever you see these snakes at the base of a stairs, is thank goodness you're human, because you can get to enlightenment. Don't allow this life to go to waste. Don't allow it to be complacent. Don't allow yourself to be complacent where you're not learning and growing and developing, becoming a better and better human being. Because that's what you're doing on the path to enlightenment, is you're becoming a better and better human being. So don't allow yourself to be complacent. The second thing that you can learn when you see this snake, and remember, is that enlightened beings don't have fear. That by the time you get to enlightenment, you've eliminated all your fear, including the fear of death. And then the third thing that you can remember is that whenever you come to a temple, you're not interested in having ill will towards the teachings of the Buddha. Having ill will towards the teachings of the Buddha would be to be interested in changing them. If you were interested in changing the teachings of the Buddha, it's going to cause you harm, and it's going to cause harm to countless people. Because the best thing that could ever happen for you is to be able to get to enlightenment, where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. You no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, or any of these other discontent feelings. So if you change the teachings of a Buddha, they're not going to lead to enlightenment anymore. So it's going to cause you harm, and anybody who you share that with, it's going to cause them harm too. So you're not interested in having ill will towards the teachings, because it's just going to cause you harm and other people harm. So whenever you see these snakes at the base of a stairs, it can remind you, thank goodness you're human. Don't allow this life to go to waste. Don't allow it to be complacent. That enlightened beings don't have fear, and not to have ill will towards the teachings of the Buddha, being interested to change them. So any questions here on this image here, this statue? Nothing? Okay. I don't see anything online either. All right. So this is the last one that I'll share with you guys. This is actually a leaf from the tree where the Buddha sat and contemplated whether or not to share his teachings with others. So after the Buddha gets to enlightenment, he spends 6 years getting to enlightenment. At the age of 35, he gets to enlightenment. But his teachings were very different than anybody else's teachings in the area, because they were teaching people to hang themselves upside down from trees, lay on beds of nails, pierce their body with metal implements, starve themselves. And the Buddha did these kinds of things for a little while, and he realized it doesn't work to get to enlightenment. So he went off on his own to train his own mind. So when he figured out how to get to enlightenment, it was all about training the mind. These other people thought that if you cause physical pain to the body and your mind could overcome that you would get to enlightenment. But that's not actually true. So the Buddha's teachings were very different than anything that anybody else was teaching. So he was interested in sharing his teachings, but he wasn't sure if the world was ready for his teachings. So he hangs out at this tree in Northeast India for 7 weeks, contemplating whether or not he should share his teachings. Well, we know the ending of the story. Of course, he shared his teachings, right? But this tree is associated with his enlightenment because he spent 7 weeks here right after he got to enlightenment. So they associate this tree with getting to enlightenment. So this shape of this leaf of the tree, it's a very unique shape. It's called a Bodhi tree, that this is a symbol of enlightenment as well. If you see this leaf in artwork or symbolism, it's a symbol of enlightenment. And at this temple, they actually have one of these trees out front. If you're going out the main gate, if you look down on the ground, you'll actually see these leaves because they're right there because they've been falling off of the tree. So this is a tree that you can actually go visit today. There's a descendant of the original tree. The original tree didn't last that long, 2,500 years ago, but you can see the descendant of this tree that the Buddha actually sat at during his lifetime. So this is a symbol of enlightenment as well. So any questions here? No questions? Okay. So I just shared a little bit of information here for you guys. If you would like to actually understand the teachings of the Buddha, that's going to help you to actually train your mind. I would suggest you start with this first book because we're in chapter 23 now. We're towards the end of the book, but the whole book is all about helping you to understand the teachings. And you can get this for free. You can download it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. That way you can actually learn what did he actually teach, because that's what's going to benefit you. This here is something interesting that helps you to be able to understand the symbolism, but it's when you understand the teachings that's actually going to help you to be able to improve your mind and improve your life. So thank you guys for being interested to understand the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like to learn more, you can check our bulletin board over there. You can check our website and you'll get plugged into all the options to be able to learn. So take care, whatever you do today, and have a lovely rest of your day. Sawadee Kap. You're welcome. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.